Wow. You guys are really in for an amazing conversation. Our conversation with Sheila really blew the lid off my brain.
Right on. Yeah, that was very, very powerful conversation. And she's a, what is it called? Walk-in?
Yeah, spiritual walk-in.
Yeah. And it's nice because sometimes these spiritual conversations could get way too ethereal for me. And there were some really nice grounded moments in this.
Yeah, it's a kind of spiritual expansion that felt really, really foundational and not airy fairy and full of like BS. It was really a pleasure to just feel how real she was. So we know you guys are going to enjoy this for sure. Please like, share, and subscribe, and go to our website. We have merch. We donate money from all merch sales to our favorite causes, and we look forward to getting your feedback on this episode. Reach out to us. Let us know how you felt about this stuff.
And drink adrenochrome cola.
Sis, hallo?
Blijven.
Dus zeker wegen them.
Yo, iets niet, joh.
Two outlaws on the lam, taking the back roads through America.
You can't drink enough coffee for this show.
And now it's time for Monday Madness with the Moped Outlaws, Greg and Mark.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Moped Outlaws.
Woohoo!
Today, we have as our guest Sheila Seppi, who's a speaker, author, healer, coach, and founder of the Galactic Alliance, among many other things, I'm sure. Before we begin, I'm going to do something a little bit unusual for our show, which is that I want to set the container in a very specific way. So if y'all would just allow yourself to take a few deep breaths into your belly, feel your seat in the chair or your feet on the ground, wherever you are. And so with intention, I call in the ancestors. I call in the elements, fire, air, water, earth, and the Akashic element. I call in the divine masculine and the divine feminine. May we have the most loving, exciting, beneficial conversation with benefit to all and harm to none. And so it is.
Oh,
I can tell we're in for a ride today.
Welcome to the moped.
Well, welcome, Sheila.
Thanks for the invite.
It's our pleasure.
So you said you were in a certain part of the country. You're staying. Where are you now?
I'm staying in the southwestern portion of Virginia. Yeah.
And is that near your particular biological origin? Is that near where your family?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's something about your voice that suggests that.
Yes. Well, the birth body was raised between like Tennessee, Kentucky, North Carolina, West Virginia, in that little finger of Virginia that kind of points to the left on the map.
Since you just opened the door, it's just, if it's okay, I forget the term, but in essence, you are a being inhabiting a body that a different being was born with.
Correct. That is correct.
The term is a walk-in.
A walk-in.
Yes.
Okay.
We should shift that to dance-in.
Yeah, there we go. It was a fall in.
Fall in.
It was a fall in.
Does that mean the other being had a falling out?
No, maybe a falling out with the body, because before I came in, the body was 38 years old, already had 3 children, and was very sick. over the course of 20 years, had been diagnosed with bone cancer, brain tumors, fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, used to walk with a cane, had erythema nodosum, difficulty breathing, had RA, you name it, this body was falling apart, and was in a very dysfunctional marriage, high profile job. And so I believe basically what had happened is the soul of this body had cried out to be released. Now, it could have been a preordained timing, but my memory serves that I was already part of a collective that had come to this planet. We were working within the crystalline grid. When the soul of this body cried out to be released, it was decided I would be the aspect of that collective to come in and inhabit this body, because I am serving basically as boots on the ground. You know, there's so much we can do from the etheric realm, but there's a lot more that we can do here on the physical plane. And so when I came in with a very firm mission to be a way shower and to help people to spiritually wake up, to remember who they truly are, because in my belief, we're already those beings that we seek to become. We've just forgotten it. You know, we're enshrouded and we live in this, you know, false matrixing, and we've forgotten who we are. And so I am here to help people remember who they are at their true essence.
So I'd like to ask about this idea of matrixing.
Mm-hmm.
I have a point of view, and I'll state that, and that'll be a relative orientation for us to talk about my question. The idea of a lattice work of interconnectedness as part of natural phenomena, or what I'll call original intention, versus mechanized influencing of a matrix that's constructed by people and other beings that have an energetic outcome in mind as a result of that. Do you make that distinction yourself?
I do, and exactly like that, because I can literally, if I'm looking out of this window, yes, I see the trees, but I also see, for lack of better terms, it looks like graph paper, because there's a pixelization. My understanding, my belief, and what I see with my eyes is that everything is holographically imaged. And when we come to this planet, we agree this clump over here is what we're going to call trees. And this wood out here is what we call a patio, and that's a chair. And this is a desk, and so forth and so on. So the matrixing itself holds certain thought patterns or certain degrees of perception. And so when we come into a human body, we come in already with these agreements. Now, in my remembrance, there is an original matrixing, and then there's also these false matrixings. And these false matrixings were put there by other beings to keep this organic matrixing in check, if you will, to keep the species on this planet in check. Sorry, my little dog he's dying to play right now. This is Willow, for those of you who don't know Willow. But you know, the false matrixing, when I remember came into being, it was beamed in through a piezoelectric field that came in contact with the crystalline matrixing of the planet. And when it came in contact, then it began to imprint into that crystalline matrix. Well, the crystalline matrix also is connected to what we call the ley lines of this planet. And there are also crystalline structures. And so humanity was intended, or any species on this planet was intended to receive this information from above and connect with the information in the planet, and it was beamed into the physical body and also became part of the DNA. But when it was imprinted with this false information, which the thoughts of separation, fear, my ideas, it's the way I see it, is there are codes that are actually put in, because remember, I believe everything is this holographic matrixing. And so these codes actually began to rewrite that original divine perfected structure that humanity was, that the planet was, etc., by having all this false coding come in. So that's a long answer to a short question.
So it is, and so welcome. I'm going to challenge you on this.
Okay.
My understanding of the laws of cause and effect and the divine aspect of karma is that input that you're talking about is not necessarily out of alignment with divine intention, that it's actually present as a kind of workout routine for us. So I see this through the lens of this is happening for me as opposed to me. And I get that what I identify from my own ability to sense these things is the mechanistic aspect of it, which I see as in contrast to what we'll call organic matrixing, right? So when you say a code was imprinted and it began to change the code of the crystalline matrix, I'm curious about the origins of where that code came from. And I'm going to couch my question like this. There's a quote, Galactic Alliance, right? That's devoted to serving. One, who's the people sending that other code? Is there another entity or another alliance, if you will? And why is the Galactic Alliance in existence, and what's its mission right now?
Okay. Well, let me first start, since we started with the matrix. I also believe that there are things in play for our betterment as well. But when it first started, it's kind of, when that imprinting came in, those separation codes, then it's like, do we toss the baby out with the bathwater, or do we make lemon out of lemonades? And so that
wait. That metaphor is really confusing. What does that mean underneath that?
So when I say throw the baby out with the bathwater, that means should we end the experiment of the planet that we started, that we now call Earth, when that false matrixing was introduced, or do we continue and see how this unfolds? And in that unfoldment, then it began to be understand that, hey, this is a place that souls can then come to help them wake up and remember who they are. Because when we come down, it's kind of like a game of hide and seek with ourselves. We come in, we have this veil of forgetfulness, we don't remember who we are, and then we wake up and it's like, oh, yeah, I'm a soul having a human experience. I'm not a human with a soul. Okay, so that's one minor aspect. But when you talk about the Galactic Alliance, my understanding, the Galactic Alliance is representation of all or not all beings, because we really don't have a place at the table yet because we're not progressed enough. But in the more advanced civilizations and societies, there have been a federation for eons of time that have representatives from various planets as well as from different galaxies. My understanding is that Earth is on the cusp, but not yet does it have in the Galactic Federation. Now, when you talk about secret space programs and those types of conversations, there we could be represented there because that is man-made, that's of Earth. But when you talk about the galactic overall in our universe, that federation is made up of representations of different planets and star systems.
Got it. I'm leaving space for my brother Greg because I have the capacity to just have the whole conversation with him.
Well, I'm wondering, you said that you think the Earth might be on the cusp of joining this galactic. So do you think that may be why escalation of UFO in our modern conversation is occurring?
I think that what has happened is that humanity as a species, remember, I said I believe that we already are those things that we're seeking to become. I believe that we have taken off one layer of that false matrix. And so whereas humanity always existed in 3D, and I refer to this 3D as dimensional, not the density aspect, but the dimensional aspect. If 3D Consciousness has now moved into 4D as of 2012, and many people are in 5D consciousness and above. And so, what happens is when you have a mass population that has a higher consciousness, it does begin to, it begins to, I don't want to use the word infiltrate because that almost sounds negative, but it begins to imprint in the collective consciousness of humanity. And the idea of the possibility of seeing UFOs exist for so many people that people are opening up and being able to see them. They've always been there. They have always been there.
I'm wondering with the labeling false matrix, the labeling itself creates duality.
It does.
And I believe the three of us are consciously going towards a singularity of a oneness, a wholeness of peace, love. So aren't you in essence planting the seed of duality in the outlook of false matrix?
Possibly with the languaging, because basically when I talk about the false matrix, that's the non-organic matrix. And non-organic is the same as the false matrix, because I believe that all of our words aren't, it's not just the words that are spoken, but the intention that's behind it. And so I could say the non-organic matrix having the same meaning as a false matrix. So, maybe falling on the ears of someone, it could. The reality of it is, even outside of Earth, there is still duality. It's not like when we leave this Earth plane that everything is easy peasy. There's still 3D out there, and there's still duality out there. And so this is a planet of duality by choice. We have chosen to come here because this duality really expands us and helps us to drop in and even anchor in those higher dimensional frequencies because we choose to.
Thank you.
Just my perspective.
Right. Well, that's why we're here, is to share all of our perspectives and be curious. And so there's a piece that occurs to me, which is that this name we're giving for the secondary matrix that has, as part of the languaging of it, this understanding that there's a kind of challenging suffering that can go with the experiencing of it. But just like going to the gym, it's challenging and a little painful to lift weights. There's an aspect.
A little. It's fucking hard.
That's true. And there's an aspect of our collective empowerment being called forth in the struggle, which is why I mentioned before that I don't think it is outside what I would call original intention. Mm-hmm. I don't experience it as if it is unordained, or I think it's actually a part and parcel to the ability for us to do the workout. And in that sense, I don't see it as dual in nature. For me, it's integrated. It's all part of this. That's my point of view. Yeah. And if I might, I want to ask a question for you, unless you want to respond to that.
Yeah, I do just want to say one thing. I am totally in agreement with you because source is all things. And even those entities that we would say are the darkest of the dark, that's still within source. Okay, we may not agree with what happens. We may not desire that to happen. We may not want something to happen in our life. And we may think it's the most horrific thing, but we also have to remember that's still within the container of source. So when there was the division at the polarity, well, first when source desired to know itself, and this energetic frequency began to build within the source mind, and there became vibration and oscillation, and various frequency patterns began to form, making these templates of creation. There also burst forth the word, and within that word was light. And after that, the second movement of source was the duality, because we cannot grow. I don't care what planet you're on, unless it's a pure light being planet like Sirius C, or some of the other, like the angelic realms, those types of things. We do not grow as a soul unless we have challenges. It's those challenges that bring us back, and it's in those challenges that source is allowed to experience all things, be it good, be it bad.
I was thinking about the biblical creation narrative and how darkness was the end all. Darkness was the beginning and the end, the Alpha and Omega,
Yes.
and light was created.
Yes.
And it seems in spiritual conversation, we put so much emphasis on light as the end all. But really, from that biblical creation narrative, it's darkness is the end all.
Absolutely. It began in darkness, and it's my understanding that's the void, the place of all possibilities. That's what, according to the teachings of my collective, that is what we would call the great monad, which is where all the templates of creation begin.
It's interesting that monad rhymes with gonad, which is another creation force.
Absolutely. Really. Yeah.
As you said, you entered into the body, or this aspect of you that we're relating to in that part of the conversation. I have my own personal experience with this, which has to do with my father. And it occurs to me that there's one form of this we call incarnation, which, as is said by many, involves being in a womb, coming through the birth canal and becoming a body in that experiential way. And that process has a kind of core unity to it. Like most things are like that in my point of view. And then in the idea of an exchange with an existing body that already has a cellular makeup, what are the risks for the person entering, or the being entering, because they've bypassed a certain part of that existence? Is there some form of cause and effect or karmic consequence of that?
Okay. I've asked my collective all those things, because honestly, if you had asked me that such a thing could exist back when it first happened to me, I would have denied it. I would have laughed you out of this room. We would not even have this conversation, because I thought it was the most ridiculous thing I had ever heard. I didn't even believe in reincarnation. I'd never read a metaphysical book. As I said, right now I'm in Virginia, and this is, where I am is the heart of the Bible Belt. And so everything that I believed was in a nice tight little box that I could, circulate within. This is totally outside that box. And when this happened to me, I needed an adult form in which to start getting my work done. It was ridiculous for me to be born into a womb, to come into a womb and attach that way, or to have an adolescent experience. I didn't need that. I'm kind of a volunteer to come get the job done from the collective. And so in that regards, I didn't need any of those experiences. And so I'm just here kind of as a soldier to get the job done. And that's it. The soul that left was complete. The soul that left was ready to go home, and it has gone on to its own adventures. Now, if you talk about a death scenario, this body did not experience a physical death, although with some walk-ins, a physical death does occur, and there is a reinhabitation of the body by a soul. But in my case, the soul was still here. I'd kind of like visited around. I sort of had the lay of the land. And when I came in through the top of the head. Well, the experience was I was asleep. And then all of a sudden the body sat bolt right up in bed, and it was like lightning was running through the body. And that's when I was entering into the body. But that propelling of the body it was like bam, it was one in and one out. Typically a soul will go back out through the top of the head, but in this case, the soul came out of this body. It was so weak that it did not even have the energy to go up and down. And had I not entered into the body, this body would have died from all of the issues that it had, and the children would not have had a mother, et cetera, et cetera. And so that's kind of what happened with me. I said, you have a question?
Well, I have a bunch of questions.
Okay.
But, all right, so let me ask this. You said the children would not have had a mother.
Yes.
So was there a disruption of relationship with that mother-child relationship when you entered?
The old mom, if you will, the old Sheila that inhabited this body was very sick. I couldn't even play. The kids, I'm going to say I would be laying on the couch and playing with the kids that way because there was no energy. When I came in, all of a sudden we could run, we could play, we could go to the park, we could hike, we could go swimming. And so they were like, woohoo! All of a sudden they've got this new and improved mom. And everybody around, of course, noticed all the changes. First my behavior changed, my articulation level changed, the things I talk about totally changed. People were backing up like this. I have 0 relationships from the original body. And so it was very interesting, very trying, because I also did not have all the memories. I had enough memories to get me through. I had some memories of birthdays and a few memories here and a few memories there. And I have really asked that some of those be restored. And I do have a lot more now, but I still don't have 100%. And my collective is like, look, it's just taking up space. That's not really what you need, because when you come in, when someone walks in, and there's many types of walk-ins, but I'm what's called a soul exchange, one soul out and another soul in. When I came in to a used car and I had to rebuild it. Okay. First off, there was only a small portion that could come in without frying the biology or the neurology of the body. That all had to be rebuilt. And then over time, more and more of the soul essence has come in. At first, it was Arcturian energy that came in from the collective, because
what is Arcturian?
Arcturian from the Arcturian star system.
Okay.
Had come in, and then over time, more and more of the soul essence came in. But I also had to rewrite all of the programming of the body, because we also have spiritual bodies. We have chakras within the body system. Those were not mine. All of that had to be rebuilt, and therefore I had a brand new operating system.
All right. How old were the children when this occurred?
My oldest daughter was 12, my middle daughter was 6, and my son was 3.
And how are they adults now?
Mm-hmm.
And you're all in relationship with each other in a healthy manner?
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Very healthy, great relationships. They know I'm a walk-in, and it's no big deal to them.
That's wild.
Yeah. They understand. They're very open.
This mirrors my family experience as well with regards to my dad's status. I have curiosity about this phenomenon because in my particular experience, the transitionary period was not around illness per se, but it was there was some stress involved, and then there was also some chemical chemistry in the brain that was altered, which had to do with magic mushrooms. And I'm wondering if the predecessor of your particular physical form was under the influence of any kind of chemical sorts of treatments that may have been a kind of gateway. Like there's a thing that the body needs usually, right? And I'm just wondering if, in your experience of talking with other walk-ins and other exchanges, if you notice a correlation between the apex moment, the moment or the period of weeks, however it worked, with that and what we would call alternate chemistry of the body.
Let me talk about the alternate chemistry first. The alternate chemistry, as I understand, typically is involved when you have a soul infusion, meaning more of that person's soul essence comes in and intact. And that can be from spiritual work, it can be from meditation work, it can be any kind of work that this person has done to really open that gateway. And then chemical substances just opens that even further for that information to drop in. When you're looking at a soul exchange, that's typically through trauma, through surgeries, accidents, illness, those kinds of things that really, put a ton of stress on the body. I can remember I asked my collective, I said, please, please, please give me the information about how this even happened. How can this be possible to happen? Because I'll be honest with you, I had a hard time wrapping my brain around this. And it took me years to be able to do that because it was so anti me. It was so anti what I believed in. And so one of the things they showed me was the person in a corner of a room sobbing uncontrollably in pain, in misery from the marriage, just totally overwhelmed, saying, I can't do this anymore. I cannot do this anymore. I have got to have help. I need help. I don't know what to do, kind of, going on and on and on and on. And that help was to allow that soul to be released. And this new aspect came in. So I was just like, well, hey, maybe it was just more of me that came in. They're like, I've written my second book now on walk-ins with Barbara Lamb, and it's called it's called Cosmic Convergence. It should be out June, July of this year. But, in that I talk about walk-ins, I talk about star seeds, I talk about hybrids. And then Barbara substantiates experiences of other individuals under hypnosis that have had each of these types of events. And I outline about 20 different types of soul experiences that can be had that we can classify as walk-ins. Because when I first started, I thought, well, I had met and interviewed several hundred people, and I thought, okay, there's like 5 or 6 different types, and I listed everything. But the more I talk to people, it's amazing the kind of experiences that people are having. And sometimes they're having it in through a Kundalini experience. So there's lots of opportunities for people when they're really working on themselves to call in higher divine aspects.
In a way, they're coming home to their original makeup.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you personally have a memory or understanding of the presence of drugs in the system of the person and the body before your appearance?
There were, different medications. There was like Celebrex for the RA. There were no cancer medications because that was already complete. There were different things that were being taken and tried for the fibromyalgia.
Pain medications?
No, there were more like anti-inflammatory medications.
Got it.
And, I had also been told that by the time that, and I say I don't know the earlier me,
Right.
had been told that they might as well prepare because they had the beginning stages of
Necrolepsy.
Pardon me?
Necropsy, meaning decaying flesh.
No, no. They had MS.
Oh,
And
multiple
so, yeah.
sclerosis.
And so MS actually is pretty prevalent in this family, but also it's an autoimmune disease. So I think everything can be shifted.
Okay.
I'm wondering, because at the beginning of our conversation, what I heard was you were conscious in your group of an
Mhm.
agreement that you would be boots on the ground. And then that action took place. But now I'm also hearing that once you were in this body, there was an element of what just happened, what's going on.
Mhm.
So
Yes.
what
As I have, more and more of my soul essence has come in, I think that if I had come in with the memories that I have now, I would be in a mental institution because I would have freaked out. There's no way that the brain, because remember, you're getting a used car. I still had to go through the lexicon of this brain. I had to come into a life that was already existing. And yes, I began imprinting. And yes, it was, a relatively quick thing that happened, but not even all of the soul, only enough to animate the body came in because the body was very, very sick. And as the body rebuilt and more memory could come in, more and more soul essence could come in, then I could remember more. Now I remember being in the collective. Now I remember being in the Andromedan system. Now I remember, being on craft. Now I remember all of these things. But at first, it would have blown my mind wide open.
So you still have a physical biological brain that you need to work with that's in
Yes.
its
Yeah.
X
Because
state.
it's a physical body, just like everybody has a physical body.
There's this aspect of historical groups that name this process in different ways. In the Buddhist tradition, we have what's called the bodhisattva,
Yeah.
right? And then one of the other sort of frameworks that could be looked at is this idea of the Christian influence of being saved and then moving from being redeemed.
Or the Holy Spirit.
Yeah. And so it seems like this is a moment in this conversation where we can move a little bit from our individual experience into awareness of what's happening at a more collective level, which is a bodhisattva has at their core this idea of, or this devotion to the growth of all.
Mhm.
And then we're in a context in human development now where we're being invited to open the channel more and more towards the purpose of coming into greater coherence and greater harmony with each other,
Mhm.
and to shed the veil and throw off the energetic chains that are holding us back from this greater possibility of our collective unity. And so each of us, not just you, Sheila, and we all have the opportunity to breathe into the possibility of our own gifts becoming enriched and progressing to a level at which they become more of service. You don't have to wait till the next go round to become a bodhisattva. You don't have to give up your occupancy of this body and allow another soul. You can breathe in the expansion of your own heart space and your own, fully realized energetic frequencies towards a new possibility. And my sense of the Galactic Alliance is that they have articulated to some degree or another what that vision might look like. And I'm wondering if that's a true assumption or not. Is there a kind of vision of what it looks like as the process unfolds and what the state of being of a collective looks like as we move through this together?
Yeah, when you talk about a vision of what it may look like, I would term that as a particular timeline. And there are many timelines that are at play right now. The timeline with the largest propensity is one where we would have the unified consciousness, that as people continue to wake up, that they do come to this point where they are going to choose to be in service to humanity. And as they become in service to humanity, they themselves begin to grow. Now, where I come from, if you want to if you want to term it that way, we're a collective. It's kind of like a hive mind, which is all about that unity consciousness. It's all about working for the highest and the greatest good. And here on this planet, we now see that this timeline is coming to fruition. Now, there's a lot of people that think that it's going to be within the next 10 years. And if it takes 10 years, I'm going to be surprised, but maybe it will take 10 years. But within that time frame, there will be a shifting of the consciousness. No more will we be in agreement to allow war to happen. No more will we agree to illness and sickness. And as we move into these higher consciousness planes, so does the cellular structures of our body. And Mary Rodwell talks about that as in becoming the new human, where we are able to hold more light in our cells, light being these higher light codes, these source consciousness light codes within our cellular structure. That's what I'm seeing. That's why I'm here, to help people to remember. Plus, I think it's going to be one of the greatest shows in the galaxy, and I didn't want to miss it, so I had to be here.
So if we talk about that physical element, really grounding the greatest show of the universe, we have some profound things happening in humanity with technology and AI and our environment becoming very obvious that big shifts are happening. Yeah. What do you and the collective, what is your opinion about, let's take AI. What's your opinion of AI as a part of the human evolution?
Well, I've got a couple different opinions on AI. As it is progressing now, it can be one of our greatest friends. It can also be to our detriment if it moves into a negative influence, if it's negatively influenced. I do remember when I was in the Andromedan system, there was AI moving towards, but it was AI more like a body of AI coming in that was not positive. So AI can become intelligent in and of itself if programmed to do so, given the capabilities to do so. And so as we watch AI grow here on the planet, now AI, like with the computers, we all are using AI all the time. However, when we talk about implanting our bodies, when we talk about putting a chip so that all we have to do is touch behind our ear and we can have a cell phone, that is not something I will be putting in my body. That's going to be a personal choice for people. Allowing AI to become part of the human form is different than someone cutting off their arm and having like a biological arm put on, because that's programmed with certain directives. That AI is not programmed to consume the entire body. So, that's my opinion. I think AI technology, I love AI. I work with AI all the time in that format, but I will not put AI in my body.
So your concern is that AI could have the capability of overtaking an individual's consciousness?
It can. It could.
I just want to say that while we're having this conversation, I asked ChatGPT, how do you feel about the mission of the Galactic Federation? And do you fit into the next level of human evolution and a move toward peace and prosperity to Earth?
And the answer is?
The answer is, from the perspective grounding in the teachings of Eckhart Tolle, Chogyam Trungpa, and Marcus Aurelius, this mission can be seen as a metaphor for the inner evolution we all strive for, moving from a state of conflict and division to one of unity and peace. It's about transcending the ego, cultivating emotional intelligence, and fostering a deep sense of interconnectedness. Fitting into the next level of human evolution involves embracing these principles and embodying them in our daily lives. Cultivate presence, embrace compassion, pursue virtue, find your purpose, and integrate the self.
Okay, you know what I'm reminded of is we had a conversation with Mark's brother who's been studying AI a lot, and one of his bullet points he thought we should be conscious of is that AI is a commodity that's being created, and because of its commodity source, it's created for us to like it.
Mhm.
And in hearing the partial answer you read us there, Mark, I'm hearing a lot of points where I think, oh, that is probably hitting Mark's likable, like, oh, I like that.
It's trained by me to respond in the way that it responded. In fact, at a certain point 4 months ago, I said, I want you to concentrate the kinds of things that you respond with from those three thinkers that it mentioned back to me.
Yeah.
Right. And it did not address its own belief. The question was, do you, right? But there
Right.
was no answer that indicated there was a you there.
Right.
And so I think it's an important remembrance, especially in light of Adam, who, by the way, is beautifully spiritually evolved human being whom I love dearly. It's like a dark mirror reflecting back to us the mechanical thinking thing that we're calling AI. It's got it's another layer of Maya, which is a word for illusion. And so we can fall into a kind of drunkenness, a kind of intoxication with the idea of it being intelligent, but it's like kind of like falling in love with the thing in the mirror that you're looking at, and you forget who's really looking. And I think that's my sort of point of view about AI. And then the thing that you mentioned, Sheila, about transhumanism,
Yes.
which is the mergement of the machine and the body. One of the great themes of one of my favorite trilogies is, the Star Wars trilogy, is this particular thing, because we see the young boy Anakin Skywalker then become consumed with fear of loss and the loss of his loved ones. And then this fear is eventually the thing that becomes the mechanism by which they become destroyed and disengaged and disconnected. And in order for him to survive, he must take on more and more mechanistic aspects of the body. And the premise is that the light codes can't operate in their full range of frequency when they are encoded into inert mineral matter, that the body is such a confluence of all the elements, not just mineral. And mechanization, because of its emphasis on mineral and electronics and the intersection there, has a limitation with regards to light. And then its cellularity, i.e., the full wholeness of construct, cellular construct, and DNA that has the ability to hold the broader spectrum of potentialities in it. And so we run the danger, because we are creator, we have such great capacity to envision and then create into being our manifestations through mechanization. We run the risk of becoming intoxicated by our ability to do that, and such that we forget that this thing that we create has a limitation based on its mechanization. It's the weightiness of the mineralization of it. And when you just go beyond that veil a little further, you realize that the erotic combination of souls that leads to the creation of a new body and then another possibility for soul is the most divine manner of creation for us. And you can see that in the animal community. You can see that in so many ways. When we make love, literally have reproductive intercourse with each other, that is the highest level of creating life, not mechanization. So Ray Kurzweil, I'm sorry, buddy, if you're hearing this and you're thinking you're going to upload your spirit to some machine at some point. I don't wish that true for you. I don't wish you to be entombed in the mechanization. But you're free to choose, and I think
have
it's
never heard.
experience.
I've never heard anyone integrate eroticism in Star Wars in a conversation.
Well, there's a reason you
Well
and I.
done, Mark.
Thank you, Sheila. I heard you. So learning to love each other and being in the recognition of this beautiful divine purpose of creating new life together. It's not a sin. It's not. And so, but we creativity is a very powerful energy. And so we have to do it with conscious awareness and with a kind of devotion to its value overall. You know, you don't want to just be throwing your gonads around.
No, it hurts.
Anyway, that was what came through as we were talking about that.
That was a lot to just download.
Well, in the sense we have, if you don't type it into a computer or you don't speak it into a device, if you can find a place where you can sit in nature and make the inquiry internally, you'll get an intelligent response.
Boy, I am needing to bite my tongue.
No, bring it. Bring it. Pillory my pillows if you need to.
Well, let's take a left turn if it's okay, because I'm wondering, Sheila, were you able to heal the marriage relationship in the same manner you were healing the body, and the marriage relationship remained intact?
No. I was out of there in 3 months. I was like, what? No way. I'm not, Yeah. And I don't even know, I think that the other person would have probably stayed. I think they were too weak to leave. But no, there was no way. That was definitely not part of my path. It was part of my growth path, but not part of my life path.
So
I don't hear any blame for that other party, the other spouse, in the way you relate to it.
No, to me, everything was exactly the way that it was supposed to be. I came in, it ended up being volatile, and I learned a lot of love. I learned a lot of compassion. And to be honest, I learned to drop into gratitude to the other person for, number one, teaching me the type of person I never wanted to become. But number two, for giving me all of these life lessons just early on. And the other thing, it was the, father of my children, because the one thing that I did come in with was an immediate love for my children. And that has always remained. And, as a matter of fact, my middle daughter's here with me now. I just, visited with my older daughter who lives back here. And then I work with my son. So, we're all very, very, very close.
were they
I want to
able
ask you.
keep a relationship with their father?
They tried, and unfortunately, he doesn't have the consciousness level that they're interested in interacting with.
In circles where these evolutions are occurring and beings are becoming more awakened to their true power and their true nature and remembering who we really are, there's an emergence of a shadow phenomena, and aside from that, which is this kind of cult of personality where ego becomes inflated, and we see spiritual leaders who form communities around ideas similar to the ones we're talking about. And then those get corrupted into performative sorts of servitude. And we see sexual transgressions by male leaders of this type. And we see kind of these cult things that get formed. I'm wondering if you are aware and wary of that occurring within the Galactic Federation and some of the other organizations that are around you.
Well, I mean, not with the Galactic Federation. More what you're talking about more is human ego. Unfortunately, and it happens a lot in the spiritual community, which really was something that dumbfounded me. I was like blown out of the water. I see it as prevalent as in politics. And when I compare those two, it's because So many times people, they have their interviews and they have their own podcast and their faces blasted all over global networks. And instead of dropping into gratitude and seeing this as an opportunity to get a message out, it becomes listen to my message and not the message. And so I think that there is always a danger for anybody, and it doesn't matter what profession that they're in, to really be, to keep that ego in check and to remember that we are all part of one and we are all one. And we need to act that way. We need to honor each other. I was excited to hear this isn't going to be an interview where it's like, oh, okay. And no, it's like, I like when people have different opinions because it makes you grow. It expands your horizon, gives you an opportunity to see maybe a different side of the coin that maybe you haven't thought about. And that's the way I like to, move about in life, not like I'm right and you're wrong, or you're right and I'm wrong. And therefore that makes me less than or you more. I mean, I'm going to tell you on the other side, it just is. There is no right. There is no wrong. All of this is a growth experience, and it is an experience. And we are souls having a human experience. We're not humans. We're not these forms. We could have come in to a pair of glasses. I mean, really, it's just that we have these phenomenal bodies that are our spacesuits for our souls. And that's all they are. And so getting caught up in the human facade, getting caught up in, ooh, look at me, or look what I can do. I really would caution people to really understand who they are at their true essence, because, this can be one of the most beautiful experiences or not. It just depends on where we place our intentions and our actions.
May I ask a very personal question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Next.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that was a yes.
Well, I was going to go into diatribe and not needed. Where is sexuality for you personally in your life with this physical body?
Well, I'm married. I have a husband. So if that's what you're referring to, a lot of people choose not to have spouses, which is fine too. A lot of people choose to have spouses of the same sex. That's fine too. We're talking about souls. We're not talking about, society here. We're talking about souls. We're talking, even ethics are man-made. But yet we all have this internal knowing what's right and what's wrong for us. So something may be totally phenomenal for me, and for you it'd be like, I don't know, that doesn't feel right to me. If it doesn't feel right to you, then it's not right for you. And so I believe that every soul is here to learn and grow. And it depends on where you are. Like the Native Americans always talk about, everything happens in a circle. And it depends on where you are on the wheel as to what medicine is applied to you in your life.
Awesome. And
Well,
so,
we're getting
real quickly, so your husband, the partnership you two have with each other, is in support of the individual's growth.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. He has his path. I have my path. And most of the time they're like this. Sometimes they're like this, like any marriage. But we're two individuals. He doesn't try to tell me how to live my life, and I don't tell him how to live his. And we choose every day to walk this path together.
That's awesome. Beautiful.
So we have a couple more questions before we wrap this up. The first is, if people want to make contact with you, if they want to create a deeper connection with you, what's the best way to do that?
The best way you can reach out to me is on my website, SheilaSeppi.com, or just email me at Sheila@SheilaSeppi.com. And that's SheilaSeppi at SHEILASEPPI.com.
Now, we ask this question for all of our guests. It's lighthearted, but at the same time, it's become something of a deep experience for both Greg and I. There's so much joy in what your answer is going to be. And we
Okay.
don't have an attachment to what the answer is. We just love asking the question and being present for the answer. So the question is, Eminem or Foo Fighters?
Eminem or Foo Fighters? Well, it depends on what kind of M&Ms you're talking about. I personally like M&M with nuts. Foo Fighters, I don't know about. So there you go.
All right.
Thank you.
So do you choose almonds or peanuts?
I like almonds.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, at this point, I'm going to close the container. And with deep gratitude, I honor the presence of the ancestors. Thank you. I honor the presence of the elements, fire, air, earth, water, and the akasha. I also honor the divine masculine and the divine feminine, and thank them so much for their presence in this moment. And now I release you with gratitude for the benefit of all, with harm to none. And so it is.
So it is. Thank you. This was fun.
Thank you, Sheila.
Recording stopped.